Andrew Cross was a 36-year-old adventurer and YouTuber from Grand Junction, Colorado. His channel, Desert Drifter, combined archaeology with exploration, showcasing everything from ancient stone walls thousands of years old to hidden German spy tunnels left behind from World War II. His work wasn't just informative, it was beautifully filmed and edited, giving his videos a polished, cinematic quality. That style helped Andrew gain a massive following in only 14 months on the platform. His viewers adored his content and waited eagerly for each release. But after his January 2025 upload, the channel went silent. Some fans thought he was taking a break, while others assumed his next project was simply taking longer than usual. On February 2nd, the truth was revealed by his wife, Evelyn, and it was far worse than anyone expected. Andrew had been in a catastrophic car accident. While returning from filming at Bears Ears National Monument in Utah on January 31st, he stopped at a red light at the intersection of 1st Street and North Avenue in Grand Junction. Out of nowhere, a speeding car slammed into him from behind, flipping his vehicle and leaving him with critical brain trauma. Paramedics rushed him to the nearest hospital, but even with immediate care, the damage was irreversible. He spent over a month in the ICU on life support, with no hope of recovery. Finally, on March 4th at around 10:50 a.m., his family made the heartbreaking choice to remove the machines keeping him alive. The news devastated the hundreds of thousands who had been waiting for his next video just weeks earlier. In their grief, his fans came together and raised more than $544,000 to support Evelyn and the family. As for the driver responsible, identified as Ragnar Nicholas Crystal, he was arrested on February 21st, 20 days after the crash, and later charged with vehicular homicide and driving under the influence. At the time of writing, he is still awaiting trial. Storm de Buell was a 22-year-old Belgian YouTuber who became known for documenting his travels through Northern Europe. In his videos, he never spoke a single word, instead relying on the raw sounds of nature to draw viewers in and make them feel present with him. Though he began sharing his adventures online in August 2024, his passion started much earlier. Since the age of 19, he had been camping alone in the wild. On one journey, he even biked more than 3,700 miles, over 6,000 kilometers, across Sweden entirely on his own. He was no stranger to surviving outdoors. But when the elements become brutal, even the most skilled can be overwhelmed. Sadly, that's what happened to Storm on the night of October 29th, 2024. He was filming yet another trip, this time in Sweden's Jokkmokk region, famous for snowy vistas and northern lights. His usual routine was to leave his car in town, then hike deep into the wilderness with his gear, often staying out for several days before returning. October 29th was meant to be his final day. He was just one day's walk from reaching his car, but with night falling fast, traveling further wasn't safe. He decided instead to camp. A chill wind swept over the landscape, so Storm built up snow around his tent to shield it. But within hours, a powerful blizzard rolled in, blasting the area with winds up to 75 miles per hour, or about 120 kilometers per hour. Snow quickly smothered his shelter, and temperatures dropped to 21 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 6 degrees Celsius, though the wind chill made it feel closer to 0 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 18 degrees Celsius. Realizing how dire things were, he reached out. Around midnight, he sent a video to a friend, showing his tent tearing apart in the storm and saying, "Tonight it's going to get worse." Jesus Christ. Not long after, he called his grandmother, trying to comfort her. "It's snowing heavily here, but don't worry. I'll survive, you know." At 2:36 a.m., Storm managed to contact emergency services, reporting multiple injuries, including a broken nose, and pleading for help. But the storm made it impossible to send a helicopter, and the snow blocked ground teams. By 10 a.m., the weather finally calmed, and rescuers hurried to his location. Unfortunately, they were too late. His legs had turned purple from the cold, and even the blood on his face had frozen solid. Strangely, his body was discovered about 1.6 miles or 2.6 kilometers from where his tent had collapsed. It isn't clear if he abandoned it after it gave way or left beforehand. He had been moving toward his car when he likely fell, broke his nose, and called for help. In the end, the only consolation is that Storm died pursuing what he loved. As he once told his father when beginning these journeys, "Dad, it took me a long time to know what I wanted, but that's what I want. Finn Kinney was a 33-year-old outdoorsman from the Pitcairn region of Scotland. Using his extensive knowledge of survival, he ran a school called Wildcat Bushcraft, where he taught children practical wilderness skills. Lessons included bushcraft techniques such as foraging, shelter building, and hunting with natural tools. Alongside his business, Finn also created a YouTube channel under the same name, sharing his expertise with a wider audience. His videos were both educational and engaging, gradually attracting a small but loyal following. What those followers never imagined, however, was that this very channel would later become linked to Finn's tragic disappearance. On March 25, 2022, he was dropped off along the B873 near Loch Naver in Sutherland. His plan was to head south, trekking 45 miles to the village of Gulspie, documenting his bushcraft skills throughout the journey. His family knew the hike would last more than a day, so at first they weren't worried when he didn't arrive immediately. But after 3 days with no word, alarm began to set in. Even more troubling, every attempt to reach him went straight to voicemail. By the third day, his father contacted police and filed a missing persons report, though he clung to the hope that Finn was only lost, without signal, or maybe moving slower than expected. Sadly, the truth was much darker. Finn had seemingly vanished without a trace. Despite months of intense searches around Loch Naver, authorities failed to uncover a single lead. Finn's case even appeared on the British program Vanished, but that too brought no results. His father, Mark, refused to give up, continuing his own search long after the official efforts had ended. 19 months later, he finally came across the first genuine clue. Finn's backpack was discovered hidden in brush along the bank of Loch Naver. Though Mark kept its contents private, the find convinced his family that Finn had likely attempted to cross the loch and drowned. After several more months of unsuccessful searching, they were forced to make the painful choice to stop looking and accept the likelihood that he was gone. Still, many online doubt this conclusion. Why would an experienced survivalist make the beginner's mistake of swimming across a loch, especially with miles left before reaching Gulspie? These doubts have fueled alternate theories, ranging from the idea that Finn staged his own death to start anew, to darker possibilities, such as him intentionally entering the loch to end his life. Yet, without solid evidence, no theory holds weight. What truly happened to Finn remains an unsolved mystery to this day. Hannah Rose Moody was a 31-year-old content creator and YouTuber living in Scottsdale, Arizona. While her YouTube channel was focused mainly on sharing her Christian faith, her Instagram feed told a slightly different story. There, she frequently posted photos and clips of her hiking trips through Arizona's rocky desert landscapes. Ever since moving to the state 6 months earlier, hitting the trails several times a week had become part of her everyday life. May 21st was meant to be no exception. She woke up early, drove out to the Gateway trailhead in the McDowell-Sonoran Preserve, parked her vehicle, and set off on the 4.5-mile or roughly 7-kilometer loop. The path was moderately tough, with rocky climbs and some elevation shifts, but it was nothing Hannah hadn't handled before. Confident, she believed she could finish in less than 3 hours, leaving plenty of time to meet friends she had plans with for lunch. But what began as a normal hike ended in heartbreak. Concerns started when Hannah never arrived at the restaurant. She hadn't texted to say she'd be late, and calls to her phone went unanswered. It wasn't like her to suddenly disappear without a word. After waiting for hours, her friends finally drove to her home around 7:50 p.m., hoping to find her resting after a long trek. Instead, they saw her car missing, the house dark, and the doors locked. Realizing something was seriously wrong, they contacted police. Her car was quickly located, still sitting at the trailhead, and a large-scale search was launched along the Gateway Loop Trail, using helicopters, drones, and canine teams. By 11:30 p.m., darkness forced the search to pause, but it resumed the following morning with even more rescuers. At 12:05 p.m., a helicopter pilot spotted what her loved ones had dreaded. Just 600 yards away from the main path, Hannah's body was found lying face down in the desert. She had already been dead for several hours. The cause wasn't immediately clear. There were no signs of violence, no intoxicating substances in her system, and not even major head trauma from a fall. Investigators concluded the most likely explanation was heat exposure. On the day of her hike, Temperatures in the preserve reached over 102 degrees Fahrenheit, or around 39 degrees Celsius. It's believed Hannah suffered heat stroke, became disoriented, wandered off the marked trail, and eventually collapsed. In the end, her YouTube and Instagram posts became an unintentional farewell to her family, friends, and the community she left behind.